Today we will pledge billions for Ukraine. Allies begin the Ramstein-format meeting UDGC, Ukraine Defense Contact Group. No, not the one on Signal, physically and real in Brussels. Trump's envoy Witkoff to meet dictator Putin on April 11th. What's to expect? And the Blitz Talk with expert Yulian Shifu, Romanian ballot scandal, what happened in the country now and what is the aftermath for it. Good afternoon, my name is Enrique and we are UATV English-speaking Ukrainian state media, bringing you the hard truth in easy terms, we hope, for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. The 27th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, UDCG, in Brussels on April 11th will gather representatives of some 40 countries, including the United States. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky would join the meeting, co-chaired by Germany and the UK through a video link, Pistorius adds. The Ramstein-format meeting comes at a pivotal time for the pro-Ukraine coalition. The US had signaled reduced commitment to Europe's and Ukraine's security, and European parties scramble to shore up support for Kiev as we face in Ukraine mounting pressure of Russian aggression. Sitting with Pistorius and Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, UK Defense Secretary John Healey reminded that the previous summit in February saw the Allies commit almost $2 billion in aid. Today we will pledge billions more, Healey told journalists at the start of the summit. The UK and Norway have already committed an additional $585 million in military support, while Germany pledged 4 new IRIS-T, air defense complexes, armored vehicles, missiles, shells and other support.
Our priority is air defense, and it is very important that our partners hear us. Our partners can help with this and also speed up the implementation of all agreements reached earlier. Patriots that remain unused in storage with our partners' help should be protecting lives. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
The UDCG was launched by the former U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in 2022, delivering some $126 billion in military support to Ukraine from roughly 50 countries. In case you didn't notice yet, US President Donald Trump's accession to the office in January brought a major shift in the US foreign policy. The new administration has yet to approve any new aid package for Kiev and instead seeks to broker a peace agreement with Russia at whatever is the cost of it for Ukraine. Previous, the 26th Ramstein-format meeting on February 12th, the first summit since Trump took office, was also the first UDCG meeting not chaired by the US Defense Secretary, as Hegseth passed the role to his British counterpart Healey. What happens next during the 27th UDCG meeting is a mystery for now, yet we will keep you posted. You have my personal word on that. Steve Witkoff, US President Donald Trump's special envoy for the Middle East, traveled to Russia to meet Russian dictator Vladimir Putin on April 11th. This would mark the third meeting between dictator Putin and envoy Witkoff, who has taken the lead in Trump's efforts to broker a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. The trip comes a week after Putin's envoy Kirill Dmitriev met Witkoff and other US officials in Washington and expressed cautious optimism, end of quote, about the renewed diplomatic engagement between the US and Russia. Kremlin's mouthpiece, Dmitry Peskov, confirmed later on April 11th that Witkoff had arrived in Russia. He added that the Kremlin will announce whether the US envoy is scheduled to meet Vladimir Putin. Well, it will be fun to watch if not. Trump's push for a ceasefire has stalled as Moscow rejected a full 30-day truce backed by Washington and Kiev and has repeatedly violated the energy ceasefire agreed upon on March 25th. Nothing new, even if Trump casts his art of the deal Russia's made to break any deals anyway. These developments led to the US president adopting increasingly harsh rhetoric towards Putin, saying he was pissed off and very angry at the Russian leader over his attacks on President Volodymyr Zelensky's credibility and stalled peace talks. The Trump administration has repeatedly threatened additional sanctions and tariffs against Russia unless it comes to the negotiating table and scales down attacks on Ukraine, but is yet to take the step, actually. The US also took a tough stance on Ukraine, briefly pausing all military and intelligence assistance in March and pressing Kyiv to sign different versions of exploitative deal to hand Washington revenue from Ukraine's mineral wealth. US and Russian officials met in Istanbul on April 10th for the second round of talks about embassy operations, with Ukraine reportedly not being on the agenda. Well, sure thing. Why include Ukraine in the agenda, after all? It's not like bloody murderous criminal war unleashed by Russia is raging there, right? At least the same day, the two countries carried out a prisoner exchange, with Russia releasing the US-Russian national Ksenia Karelina in exchange for German-Russian citizen Artur Petrov. Well, what's next? Frankly, I sincerely doubt that even America and Russia know that. You know why I know that? Trump. That's why. Nothing is predictable with this American administration but the unpredictability of it. Well, just let's wait and see. Now, how Putin will stall the whole thing again and Trump again gets more pissed off and angry. Just saying. Yulian Shifu, Romanian foreign policy analyst and former presidential advisor. Good day, sir. Thank you so very much for your time.
Hello.
Trade war looming on the horizon. But how do you think? Should Europe respond to Trump's tariffs? Like retaliate? Or just wait? Or maybe become a 51st state maybe instead of Canada? What do we do in Europe?
Well, actually, there are several debates related to the type of reaction that one country or one actor should have in front of this type of reaction. But I will put aside some of them, the harshest or the most solid one. But there are two that basically are on the debate, and I'm telling this also at the level of the EU. We all know about this. One type is to retaliate tit for tat, China's way, raising the tariffs always to be at the same page with the US. And the second one is EU's approach as of today to the first sanctions, to the first tariffs related to steel, which is to find appropriate niches where you can do this type of reaction in order to offset in terms of finances, taxes, what you have on the other side. So, for instance, you just choose those products where your tariffs are coming with added values and are not going to be transferred to your own population who should, pay for tariffs. So it's a game that is very sophisticated, and that needs a lot of calculus and a lot of figures and also a political decision at the level of each state. And I'm sure that each and every state or actor or the EU as a whole have their own basis to find ways to react.
Well,
but what we know is that in commercial war, nobody wins. That's a fact already proved in time.
Absolutely, and consumer pays for everything in the end. That's more or less obvious. But I mean, there's politics, there's economy. Can Romania maintain a balance between its economic loyalty to the European Union and, let's put it that way, strategic security alliance with the United States, if there is a strategic unity alliance still viable?
Well, both are viable. We have in our own way of dealing with things the strategic partnership with the US, belonging to NATO and to the EU. All of these never changed. There's no step back from neither of the three relationship that we are having in hand, and it didn't come from neither of the players in the game. It's not only from Romanian points of view, but from the others. So you have to find a balanced way of reacting to all of this. But actually, it's not a choice between US and EU or NATO and EU. Just Russia tries to dig, trenches in between and to separate and to do whatever. It's not going to work.
Great.
Addressing any type of negotiation to put things together is the most appropriate way of solving each and every of those issues.
Right.
And as you have seen, and everybody have seen, at the end of the day, even President Trump realized where things are not going the right way and is adapting to the realities on the ground, including to the reactions of other actors to its own decisions at a moment or another. Even the fact of pausing and postponing for 90 days originally the tariffs shows that the discussion that he had with the chief of the Reserve, Federal Reserve, has brought fruits and reason to anything. And even though now it is still on the table, the test case with China, and we should see after this test case, U.S. will also reflect on its own policies, on its
Absolutely.
own added values, and will choose a path. So it's not a matter of choosing. And moreover, as you have seen, the tariffs arrive in a higher number or heavier to rather partners and allies than to the opposites. And it comes from the fact that the exchanges with, I don't know, North Korea or Iran or Russia under sanctions are very, very low comparable to the exchanges with the partners and allies, with the EU, with China. So in that respect, that's how, in economic terms, the burden has been taken in this type of tariffs by partners and allies, and not by competitors and enemies.
I was hoping only for that kind of answer from the expert analyst. Thank you so very much, sir. Another question. Europe is ramping up its defense capabilities, obviously. Where is Romania in the picture?
Well, we've begun this for a long time. Our 2% of GDP investment in the army comes from more than 10 years. It was an agreement done in 2015 for 10 years,
Right.
assumed to do 2%. It has been changed 2 years ago, 3 years ago, actually, after 2022. The new budget 2023 was already made, and we've moved to 2.5% of the GDP for defense. So that's where we are. And it's not only about the budget, because we are contemplating actually four dimensions. It's about
Right.
training people, attractivity of the military, field,
Right.
because
Right.
you need to prepare. Second, it's about doctrine and adaptation, and that direction, yes, NATO has built the Excellence Center for taking the lessons learned from Ukraine, which is the only 21st century real war. But here we are also having our own. Each country has its own ways and the infos to do that type of assessment, and we are doing it in order to adapt doctrines and to prepare our troops for what's happened in the war of the 21st century, highly technologized. It's also about capabilities, weapons.
Right.
We already have strong projects, programs to develop. As you know, conditions are where at 20%, we had more than 30% each time for new acquisition of modern equipment. And so that's the third one. And the
Right.
fourth one, it's about our own military industry. And there's a lot of investments. Today, with the decisions of the European Union, as you have seen, decision of the European Union, which involved the 150 billion euro investments in the defense, but that once only is related to European produced weaponries. But to that, it is added till 80 billion. The
Impressive.
1.5% that each country of the GDP, that each
Right,
country can
right.
invest outside of the cohesion and pact, which puts the deficit at 3% at most. So Romania is in an excessive deficit procedure, but to this curve which was agreed in order to enter into the convergence, you can add 1.5% of the GDP each year, where you can spend this money wherever you go, wherever you want in order to import your capabilities. So we are completely aligned to that, or if you want, we are ahead of the curve because we were one of the
Looks like it.
first before 7 countries that moved to 2%, then 2.5%. So it's not a big deal. For sure, it doesn't mean that tomorrow we can move to 5%, as it has been requested. There is a
But it's a step anyway.
debate we have Spain now to find ways and the curve to go to 3.5%. But
Right.
we will see. It is to be adapted to the threat of a long-term, high-intensity, full-scale war that Russia could forge even against NATO states. So in that condition, for sure, we need to adapt the contingency plan and the resources to the threats that we are
Right.
facing. And that's actually the next step. We will see at the NATO summit in Hague this year which way NATO as an alliance will go and what type of commitment the states are going to engage.
Well, I was going to thank you so very much for the very detailed answer. Your expertise is amazing indeed. I was going to ask a question about NATO and the Black Sea and frontline, but you almost answered everything. And that step by step going to the 5% of GDP answers all the questions. But let me slide to another theme, another topic. Given the results of the first round of ballot and allegations of foreign interference and everything, what steps should Romania take to protect its democratic system and information space in general and in particular?
Well, we've learned a lesson the hard way, and what is
Right.
very important is that everybody could learn this lesson, because now we know. First, it was very good that a number of states, US included, or US the first, have exchanged information, and it's a public fact that the State Department has sent us a classified letter, and exchange of intel did happen via
Right.
CIA and NSA and from Intel
Mm.
to know what happened. France has its part, Poland has its part, Bulgaria came with some pieces. So actually, this exchange of intel really helped a lot and put us in a position of realizing what happened first. Second, EU was instrumental related to TikTok. As you know, they have warned 2, 3, 5, 6% of the turnover of last year
Mm.
to be fined because they didn't respect the requests of our electoral authority, who asked a part of those unmarked, material to be put
Right.
down,
Right.
and TikTok not react. But now the relationship is very tight. There were already attempts, and for all these social media companies, they reacted on the spot when they were notified that some parts of it do not respect our electoral legislation. And I have to remark here, we are controlling very tightly the investments in the electoral campaign in order not to give
Mm.
to one candidate or another a plus.
Right.
So that's why you need to report whatever money you put. Each person has a limit, a number of, I think, 3 salaries to be invested in a campaign. On another point, at the end of the campaign, according to the results, the states reimburse the money that have been spent. So that's the way of approaching the elections, and that's why we had to cancel to annul the previous elections where we have a
Right. Right.
candidate announcing zero spending and having the huge
Right.
spendings
Right.
that over all of the other candidates.
Right.
So lesson learned. We have learned our part of the game. A part of them had been learned. The system works quite well nowadays. We are already in an electoral campaign, and the flux and the time frame between the announcement of a malfunction and the moment where actually any post goes down, independent of the social media, is something between 20 minutes and 4 hours,
Wow.
which is fair enough, but this has to be put in place way before the
Sure.
election to be overseen. There are the
Right.
monitoring organism that we know of, but as you know, perpetrators, and I'm not going to name, just to refer to the statement of our Supreme Council, Security Council, who said Russia and some other entities were involved in breaching the integrity of our elections. So you need to have also an oversight, because they are very inventive, and a big part of them, which happened in Republic of Moldova, was
Right.
involving money and buying votes and so on and so forth. So actually, and I think that it is also very important for Ukraine,
Absolutely.
because my guess is that Russia tried to punish Romania for the support in Republic of Moldova's elections. As you know, we have huge number of citizens from Republic of
Absolutely.
Moldova in Romania who went to vote also with the support of Romanian state, and they wanted to sanction this and maybe also to test the future Ukrainian elections.
I have no
Actually,
doubt
we
about it.
had 15 years ago that shows that there is a possibility, and we already identify based on Cambridge Analytica methodology, to get 100,000 persons and to make them vote one way or another. But this can happen, and at that time we were thinking in between the two candidates that makes the second round. Well, we never imagined that can choose a candidate and make him from scratches to be the first one in line in the second round by this type of maneuver, by 80% of the people who went to vote for this guy
Ballots, right?
never
Yeah.
voted for that. And I'm not talking about youngsters, that were also some young people who were voting the first time because they had the age, but the biggest part of this were new voters that never voted specifically, and that's the typic was blue collars working in our diaspora in Western states that were definitely targeted due to the fact that somebody sell their personal data. They were identify their own grievances and their own problems. They were get together by groups and types of grievances, and somebody worked with them with psychological operation, doing dependency,
Absolutely right.
constraint, and radicalization. That's how we lead that. But once again, in the exchange of intel, we've done this with all the states. I'm sure that Ukraine was one of the states that benefited from this exchange of intel. So everybody knows now how it has been done to take these experiences and lessons learned and to use them in their own elections. Because guess what? It happens to all of us. It takes
Indeed.
advantage on the democratic rules, and things like that can happen. So I think that at this point we are pretty much well established, and we've learned the lesson. By the way, that's the type of attack that you can do only once,
That
because
is
after
true.
that
Right.
everybody
The
will know
door is closed. Right.
how you're doing. The idea of abducting the president of another country like overnight, like this, it's not
Well,
going to be very easy to repeat.
well, yeah, but my last question was actually, you're already answering all my questions before you were asking. I don't know how you do that, but you do that for some reason. I mean, maybe because it's obvious. And my question was Russian disinformation and the way to fight it. But maybe now I'm listening to your answers, detailed answers, and I'm thinking that maybe we should learn from experience of other countries, like from this one, from Romania. And this is very helpful. And you
As we
absolutely,
learn from the other, and the cooperation is also very important,
absolutely.
because each and every one of our countries have its own experience. The US have with
It's like
2016
rubbing right.
elections. Brexit, UK comes with the Brexit experience. France was under attack at least twice, and we know their involvement. Germany just had elections with another type of involvement. So each and every of the democratic countries can come with their own added values, and
Absolutely.
that's how, by sharing those experiences, we can learn and prepare.
Mr. Shifu, I'll tell you more. I think that we do not know many attempts that just didn't become public for some reason. So
By exchange of intel, those who need to know, they know it.
they know it, but
And
we
on
just
another
don't.
point,
So, I mean, it's.
they will come. Some other will come because, once again, inventivity has no limits, and every time
That much is
something else
true.
will appear,
Yes,
something else
absolutely.
will be added, because the perpetrator needs to succeed only once, but we have to defend each and every time. That's the faith of authorities in democratic countries.
Well, what can I say? Just let's stay together. And thank you so very much for your time and for having us invited into your expertise on the matter. Thank you and goodbye. That's it for tonight. My name is Enrique, and we are UATV English, an English-speaking Ukrainian state media in constant, everyday persuasion, no matter what, to deliver hard truth in easy terms for you, for the whole free world, directly from Ukraine. We ask in return your like, your share, and your comment. Your voice matters, as it in turn helps Ukrainian voice to be heard globally. For now, stay safe and see you very soon. Goodbye.